If I were to tell you that the only thing that you need to do in life is believe in yourself, would you believe me? No? Well, good. You'd probably die of starvation if you actually believed that and followed it through to its logical conclusion. I'm not saying it's not untrue, just to be clear. I'm just saying it's good for you to maybe have a backup plan. Like how I make my bed every morning, but really I just toss the blanket over top of the messy sheets and pillows. And then if my mom asks why my bed was made so bad, I would say something like, "You never told me how," even though I'm 40 and I could easily find out how to make a freaking bed. How hard could it be? Oh, never mind. Also, the Ayaneo Pocket Air 1S is a really cool little handheld, and I like it. I'm a big fan of things that are usually big but are little. I always eat sliders instead of burgers. When I play Dungeons and Dragons, I roll teeny tiny dice. I like tiny bagels, tiny cookies, and my wiener is, but when it comes to handheld gaming PCs, little versions aren't really a thing. Most companies don't bother making pocket-friendly handheld PCs, with one exception. This here is the Ayaneo Air 1S. This thing is seriously tiny, but it's big in coolness. It's a handheld gaming PC like the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally X, but it's not as big. It's almost small enough to exist alongside retro handhelds, but it's more powerful than the Steam Deck and more powerful than the ROG Ally X. It comes fully spec'd out with 32 gigabytes of RAM, 2 freaking terabytes of storage, and a 5.5-inch OLED display. So, is this the teeny tiny pocket-friendly mini Steam Deck or ROG Ally that we've been waiting for? Well, yeah, it is. But does that mean it's actually good? Well, yes, it does. But does that mean it's actually going to be right for you? Maybe. But does that mean, can I just freaking review this thing? Oh, yeah, go ahead. Thank you. My first handheld gaming PC was the Retro Power Ayaneo Air. It was the first time I'd ever been able to play PC games on a handheld, and I was in love with this thing. Eventually I got a Steam Deck, but I still kept going back to the Retro Power Ayaneo Air because it was such a fun little handheld. But eventually other shiny things distracted me. I played a lot of Steam Deck and ROG Ally and ROG Ally X, and then this arrived at my dweeby door, the Ayaneo Air 1S. And at first I didn't really know what to make of it. Why would you want to use that when you could use this or this? But I had to give it a chance, so I made this my only handheld gaming PC that I played for the past week. And I've learned a ton about it, played a lot of games, all with the purpose of finding out why someone would choose this over a larger handheld PC. And I've done it. I have the answer. Right here, actually. What, you want to see? Right now? Alright, I guess I could show you. Here it is. Ayaneo always does nice boxes. They have the white model on the box, but I actually got the black model. Inside, we are greeted by Ayaneo's motto, "Real gamers, no gamers." That really makes you think, huh? No, it doesn't. Under here, we get some very strangely shaped word papers, and under here is the thing. And over here, we have a bunch of stuff. Some USB A to C adapters, some plugs for different regions, an adorable tiny little charging block, 65 watts, and a nice USB-C to C cable. The Ayaneo Air 1S isn't a new product. It's been around for a while. But what is new here is that they've made the jump to the Ryzen 8000 series. And the specs on this thing in general are kind of crazy. Crazy in a good way. We've got the all-new Ryzen 8840U processor. That's top of the line. 8 cores, 16 threads with a boost of up to 5.1 gigahertz. I have the top end model, which is 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM clocked at 6400 megahertz out of the box. But you can go up to 7500 megahertz if you change that in the BIOS. That's what I did. And a whopping 2 terabytes of NVMe internal storage by way of a 2280 sized NVMe SSD. The screen is a 1080p 5.5-inch AMOLED display, 60 Hz. We also get Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, Hall sticks and triggers, and a 38 watt-hour battery. You can see more info on their beautiful but difficult to navigate website, which contains such gems as "Satisfy Tossing Heart of Gamers" and "In the Name of Air, Unbelievably Thinness and Lightness." I like this part. Probably the thinnest and lightest AMD Ryzen 8840U handheld. Yeah, probably. You can't call us on it if we just say probably. They also have an ultra thin and light version and a retro power version that I am in love with, even though that one isn't listed on their site for sale yet. But hey, Ayaneo, if you're watching this, would you consider sending me a retro power version if I promise to stop making fun of your website? This is the thing right here. On the front, there's a screen. Over here, there's a thumbstick in the upper configuration, a D-pad down here, start and select on the bottom over here. On the other side, we have some face buttons, another stick, and some function buttons underneath. Up top, we got some bumpers and a couple of triggers, 2 extra function buttons, some ventilation holes, a USB-C hole, volume up and down, and a power button with integrated fingerprint reader, if you're like a secret agent or something. Underneath, we have downward firing stereo speakers and another USB-C hole and a headphone hole and a sneaky little trap door that hides our SD card hole and some more ventilation holes around back. I appreciate Ayaneo's visual language. I'm usually a big fan of their products, and this is no different. The hand feel of this thing is more or less the same as the original Ayaneo Air. That means that we get this very smooth, very matte feeling plastic under your fingers. It's a great shape to fit into your grabbers, and there's some nice curvy humps to squeeze on the sides. The weight is 451 grams, which is light for a handheld PC, but heavy for a retro handheld, so it's sort of in the middle. It's not heavy, but it's not light. You'll definitely need a belt if you're carrying this around in your pocket though. Speaking of which, yeah, it does fit in the pocket if you have big pockets. It's definitely substantial in there. You're not going to carry this with you in your pocket every day when you go to work at Giant Tiger or anything, but you can put it in the pocket, carry it somewhere, and not have a terrible time the way you would with the Deck or the Ally. The controls are great. A good D-pad with high quality inputs. I can pull off all my special moves in fighting games. The face buttons are a tad on the small side compared to like the Deck or the Ally, but I grew to like them. The sticks are Switch style Hall sticks, but these are the good kind of Switch sticks, the kind with actually accurate inputs. The triggers, also great. Hall triggers, comfortable, great sensitivity. Up here beside the bumpers, there's a function button on each side. On the left, you have a keyboard with a press, or you can hold it to open the task manager. And on the right, press is escape, and you can hold it to get the task view. And then on the bottom right, we have a little show desktop button, and then the ISpace button. You can tap this to open the quick settings, and in here you can do stuff like adjust the TDP anywhere from 5 to 20 watts, or you can go up to 25 watts when plugged in. My favorite TDP mode is this smart TDP, where the device will automatically adjust the TDP depending on the needs at the time. And you can toggle the performance overlay, change the fan settings, brightness and volume, change the RGB, a few controller settings, and then you can hold this ISpace button to bring up ISpace, which is the front-end software. And in here you can browse your installed games if you want to do that here for some reason. But most importantly, you can get to the settings that lets you do software and firmware updates, get some more options for performance tweaking, more controller settings. Nothing fancy, but it all works well enough. One of my gripes with the original Ayaneo Air was the speakers. They are downward firing, which is never good, and there they sounded kind of weirdly muffled. And as far as I can tell, these are the exact same speakers on the Air 1S. Same muffled sound. It sounds like I have wax in my ears, and I do, but it still shouldn't sound like this. I fixed this on the original Air with a piece of software called FX Sound, but I haven't bothered on the Air 1S yet. I kinda just wish Ayaneo made them sound good out of the box. The screen is flippin' gorgeous. It's 5.5 inches, 1080p, very high pixel density, and everything looks sharp and crisp. And it's OLED. Yeah, that's right, an OLED display on a little pocket-sized PC handheld. The screen is so nice, this really does feel like a mini Steam Deck OLED. This display has perfect viewing angles, super bright saturated colors, and pure dark blacks that are actually black. It's only 60 Hz though, so it's a shame that we can't get any high refresh rate action or some of that VRR smoothness. I guess one downside to this being a small device is that the screen is smaller. 5.5 inches is pretty darn big compared to lots of retro handhelds, but it's small compared to the 7 inches we get on the ROG Ally and the Deck. So it depends on what you need, you know? And it's pretty freaking cool that you get the performance that you do here at the size that it is. The 8840U that we have here is basically the most powerful chip that you can get in a handheld. Even though it's small, this thing is a legit badass handheld gaming PC. You can play everything, even AAA games at respectable settings. And even if you run at lower resolutions or make use of upscaling or run at lower quality settings, because the screen is kind of on the smaller side, the games still look amazing. If you've ever tinkered with a handheld PC before, you know that it's always a balancing act to try to get the settings looking good and the game running well without needing to crank the TDP and suck away all your battery juice. So I find on this device more than any other handheld PC that I totally don't mind running my games at 720p low settings, because at 5.5 inches they look awesome. You get way better battery life, and I constantly marvel that I'm even playing these AAA amazing looking PC games on a device that fits in my freaking pocket. This device size and screen size isn't ideal for everything. I was playing Baldur's Gate 3 on here and it was playable, but really not ideal. I had a good time playing Doom Eternal and it was fun, but this game I prefer to play on bigger devices with full-size controls and high refresh rate displays, and don't even try playing like a strategy game on here. Not worth it. The games I do like to play on here are action-heavy games like third-person action or even third-person role-playing games, racing games, and especially indie games. These games have never looked better than they do on this screen, and the size of the thing and the control style just lends itself well to these indie games. And you can run those sorts of games for hours on this thing because they aren't super demanding. The Smart TDP function does an amazing job of keeping the power usage under control, totally out of your hands. With that, you don't have to worry about constantly tweaking the power settings in addition to all the other stuff. For example, if you set the resolution down to 720p 30 FPS and the graphics down to low, it will automatically lower that TDP to the lowest that it needs to achieve that. Or if you set it to unlimited FPS and turn up the resolution in game settings, it'll let the TDP max out and give you the best performance at the sacrifice of battery life. I find it no matter which scenario you're playing in, what's most useful about this is when you're like switching between tasks. You know, having the device do the TDP management for you not only means that you don't have to mess around with it, but it also means you're not wasting your battery by running at max TDP when you're in like menus for the game or something. And of course, retro games are amazing on here because that high contrast and bright colors and pure dark blacks really makes the pixel art pop. I actually love this thing for the really retro stuff though. I've been playing GBA on this thing. It's dumb, I know, to have a badass gaming PC that can run freaking Doom Eternal, and yet here I am playing retro Doom on the GBA. I'm just a weirdo though, don't mind me. The battery life is a complex issue because it really depends. For AAA PC games, if you're running them at modest settings, you'll get about an hour and a half of game time, more or less depending on the game. But if you do some of the things I mentioned, you know, lock the frame rate, lower resolution, and use that Smart TDP, you can get a lot more. I find that for most indie games, the Smart TDP will be going with between 5 and 10 watts. And at that TDP, you'll be looking at between 3 and 4 hours of battery. And if you lower the TDP to the lowest possible, down to like 5 watts, there are some nice fun indies and retro games that you can play at that, and you'll get about 4.5 hours of battery life. The price varies depending on which model you get, obviously. The base model is 700 USDs, and that's 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. If you want the spec'd out version with 32 gigabytes of RAM and 2 terabytes of storage, it's 900 USDs. These prices are competitive within the PC landscape. Obviously, the Steam Deck LCD is the choice if you want something on the budget end, but the ROG Ally X is $800, which sits right in the middle of both models of the Air 1S. So it is a fair price. And it really just comes down to what you want out of a handheld. If you're looking for something big, this ain't it, that's what she said. But if your lifestyle requires you to get a smaller handheld PC, something more portable, something that can offer big performance despite the small size, a little mini OLED handheld PC, then this is that. It's the only one, and if you want that, you should get this. And if you want one for yourself, I'll have a link to where you can buy this on Ayaneo's Indiegogo store in the doodad below. And that's it. That's all my thoughts on the Ayaneo Air 1S. I'll have more videos for you real soon, so get subscribed if you haven't yet for some dumb reason. If you want to watch more of my videos, there's a link to a TechDweeb binge playlist in the doodad below. No better way to spend a Saturday night than that. But that's it from me for today. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.